Stephanie, welcome to the Fierce podcast. We are going to have such a special chat today. I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you.
All things marketing and personal brand and authenticity today is where we're going to go. So you are super passionate about helping people really dial in their marketing with their brand, their product, their service. How did you get started with Cool Mom CEO? Can you just share your story?
Yeah, so Cool Mom CEO was kind of an accident, actually. I started a marketing agency called The Social Vine in 2020, just kind of to make ends meet. I'm a single mom, so that was like survival during the pandemic, what I felt like I had to do. And so it started out there. I started helping people grow their business online with social media through some done for you work where I would post for them, create graphics. And then I realized my love of really just helping people create content for their business by showing up as themselves. So TikTok was not even on my radar. It was always Instagram. I didn't want to dance. I didn't want to do what I thought the people were doing on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
And then I decided at the end of January, I'm like, what if I just try this and I won't tell anybody, but for 30 days, I'm just going to go hard. I'm going to post 7 to 10 times a day, which really didn't happen, but I'm going to just do this and see how far I can get in 30 days. And when I was making the account, I literally just was like, what's a name that I could pick? Cool Mom CEO. Great. Reminded me of Mean Girls. I'm like, that's fine. I never thought that I would kind of be stuck with it for the long term. So after 30 days of being consistent on TikTok, my first month got 10,000 followers and like $3,000 in revenue from TikTok. And since then, it's just been growing exponentially.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited and happy for you. And it just really shows the testament of like when you set your sight on a goal and you go all in, what can truly happen, like the momentum you can create. And so I want to start there then. I know TikTok is like where people, I mean, it's growing. And I remember a couple of years ago, my husband was like, you got to get on TikTok. And I was like, I tried and I didn't get it. And I just kind of gave up. But now it's just like, so, I've stuck with it for about a year and a half, maybe a year. And it's just become really kind of simple. Once you click into your message and your way of doing things. But so you've had some massive growth recently. You started in February and now you are over 70,000 viewers, followers. What would you attribute to your success in that?
The consistency is first. I think maybe collectively since I started, I've taken 2 weeks off. And that was when like mentally I needed to, and my son was home from school. So that's something that I want to make sure that gets across when I talk about consistency, is that your mental health is the priority, even though consistency is important. The other thing, I really think it was just like picking my thing, what I wanted to talk about. And for me, that's marketing and content. So I was talking about that, as are thousands and thousands of other people on TikTok, but I did it in a way that was authentic to me. So I share a lot of my like personal life, and I talk about things like I would be talking to a friend about it. It's very casual and personable. So I think that really, really helped to set me apart from some other creators.
Well, and I was sharing with you, that's what really drew me to you is, you really are who you are, and you're sharing the ups and the downs. You just recently shared one where you're like in bed and you were like saying that, oh God, no one likes me. I'm thinking of this post that I said something in a TikTok, and I do that all the time. I'm like, oh my gosh, was that too much? Was that too weird? It's like, I just love how honest you are. You really say it like I think it. And you give other people permission to be themselves. And I really believe like where we are in the world right now, we're all kind of collectively, I feel this, we're coming into this place of like asking ourselves, who are we authentically? Like there's so much noise, there's so many people. And that's such a beautiful thing. But how do we find our authentic self through all of the noise? And I think so many people struggle with that. So that's what I love about you. You are who you are. There is no BS cover. It's literally like, hey, this is may not be for everyone, but it's for like the right girls, the right people. And I'm just going to share it. What would you say to someone who's really struggling with finding, you said your thing, you chose your thing, finding their thing, and then just letting their light beam without effort, without trying to be something different?
Yeah. I think coming from a place of helping other people it makes it so much easier to show up as you are and talk about the stuff that you want to talk about. So the reason why I show the behind the scenes and like the embarrassing shit that's happening in my life, like I live with my parents right now. My son and I are living with my parents. My brother and sister-in-law just moved back from Arizona, so they're living in an RV in the backyard. We have one shower. Like I have to show people that
I love it.
I want people to know like they can start showing up and telling their story before it's at a place that's like impressive. I have a storage unit with some stuff in it, but I don't have the influencer type of life. And still, I want to show up and show that side of it because there's so many other people who want to show up, but feel afraid because they don't have an all white kitchen or whatever all of these people are showing these days. So if you show up for other people, like to empower them and to inspire them to show up, it's kind of like the same idea of like the body positivity movement where we're showing more real bodies. So people are feeling more comfortable in their own skin. And it's like showing more like real life is going to make other people feel comfortable to show up and tell the truth and sprinkle that into their business to help them set themselves apart from the masses. So that's like the number one thing that I would say is just make it about other people and not about yourself.
Wow. I really love that. And a lot of what I was just hearing you say is really, I would imagine, and this has been for me, is that through the process of liberating myself and like silencing what everyone else is doing, like literally pausing, putting on mute and going within myself and being like, what am I here to do? Like you have to go back to your why. You have to go back to the heart of things. And maybe you don't know your why, but how much of this process is really taking time for yourself to know, love, and accept yourself so you can truly embody what you're talking about embodying, like being you, being true, being all of you. I think right now so many people have a hard time being true and honest, even with themselves, because we think that we need to be something more or better, and we're dealing with these insecurities. So how much of this is going back to yourself?
I think that that's a constant process. It's like it becomes a cycle. And it's like at the beginning, I started going so hard and really like getting caught up in the creation of it all, like the competition side of it. And I had to crash and burn really hard. Like I had really, really extreme burnout for a second there. And I had to make it a priority to allow myself to be still. I have anxiety and ADHD. So once I get going, it's hard to stop because I know if I stop, I'm probably not going to start again. So finding a way to just be still. And that was for me, like breath work was a huge thing that I started because I don't know about you, but meditation, no matter how many times I try, my brain just keeps going. So breath work gives me something to focus on and my mind wanders less, but I have that moment of stillness. I think a big realization that I've had recently is, and I've been helping clients with this, is stop asking other people what you should do and looking to other people's content to figure out what you need to be posting and doing. It's about asking ourselves more like, what do I want? What do I think? And what do I want to post? If people don't want to see it, that's fine. When like every fourth video will be for them, but I need to post for a little bit for me, for like a creative outlet, and just accepting that that's okay, and that it ebbs and flows. You're going to have some seasons where you're working a little harder, but you have to have that self-awareness to be able to reel it in and take care of yourself, or your body will do it for you.
Yeah, I love that. It's so true. It's, entrepreneurship is just such a journey of the self. It really, to me, it like mimics life. Everything I learn in my journey of entrepreneurship, I am learning about myself. And wherever I am is like where I'm able to be in my business level wise of how much money is coming in, how much I put out, like genuine content, and just me really living my message and my brand. And when I'm out of sync with myself and I'm not doing those grounding things you're talking about, I also have anxiety. And so I always kind of go there in my mind, like, oh no, it's not good enough. I'm not doing a good, I need more, different, everything but like what actually is. And so I think a lot of people too are afraid to try something and looks maybe silly or stupid. But I think one of my favorite quotes is by Rumi. He says, you have to go out on the way and the way appears. And it's just so true. You have to just like go out there, stumble naked, like, and you figure it out along the way.
Oh yeah. You have to accept, I think, when people say to me that they're so afraid to mess up or to embarrass themselves or do the wrong thing, I'm like, you're going to, you're 100% gonna fuck it up at some point, and it's probably gonna hurt, and you're gonna learn from it. But it's the only way. The only way to the other side of learning anything is through it. And if we're not willing to show up and do the thing, we're never gonna get better at it. I think we forget about that from childhood, that we need to fall down 10 times, get back up 11. Like you have to push through it. And it's like with confidence, you have to show up in order to get confidence. You can't just wait until you're confident to show up. It has to be the action first, which is hard. But once you accept that it's going to happen, we're going to be fine, and then you're going to keep it moving, then it makes it so much easier.
Yeah. And something I noticed with you is you bring in some humility. Like you have, and I think this is important. I've started to do this with myself. Like if it's not perfect, it's like, it's better that way. It's like having a little more humility with yourself and laughing at yourself and letting it not be perfect and being so tight about everything, but just kind of loosening and letting things be. I really, how important do you think having some humility with yourself is in this process of really sharing your message, sharing whether it's your product, your service, your brand, and also yourself on social media?
I think it's everything. That having that grace with yourself is the only way to be real. Like showing up and talking through it with your audience is so important. I think one of the misconceptions that a lot of us have is that if we show up and like show the human side of us, that takes away from our authority, or maybe people won't want to work with us because I'm constantly like losing things. And I share it on here. I'm like, well, I have had no productivity this morning because of this, and this. And some people might think I'm aloof and might not want to work with me, but chances are I probably don't want to work with that type of person either. It's like you can't find your people and they cannot find you unless you're showing up as yourself. And I think living out of alignment on social media or in real life, we kind of see, and it's like an indicator of how we're showing up when we look at the people around us. So my clients a year ago, when I was kind of living out of alignment and in my business and life, my clients were not the people that I really wanted to work with. These were people who were a little bit more rigid and formal. And it was exhausting because I was pretending to be this like weird polished version of myself. And it took every ounce of my energy from me. But once I started saying like, I mean, you know what? Sometimes you're going to mess it up. I mess up. I mean, this is who I am. Those people fall away. And now I'm surrounded by people who are completely in alignment with the person that I am.
Yeah. And I think as humans, we really have this sense. We can sense when someone is trying or and we even sense it within ourselves. Like, you do this video. When I first started showing up, I was like, oh my gosh, like, our brain wants to conserve calories. So it's like, it's so painful and hard to try so hard. And I am just at this point where like, I want to be a free woman in myself. I want to liberate myself because no one else is going to do it for me. It's all me. It's here and here and what I decided to do and how I decide to show up and accept myself. And I just think it's so important to really be able to show up and have that humility and figure it out along the way. And I know so many people listening right now are probably like, oh, well, I haven't, I've tried and I've failed and it sucked. And you just keep doing it and showing up anyways. And I think it'll suck a little less once you start to really realize that it's actually really cool to be yourself. That's been my journey with it. And I see that in you. And if you would have just kept being that polished you that you were talking about, I don't know if I would have connected with you. And that gives me more permission to like be more of myself. And I do think it's like this journey where you're learning about yourself in the process of social media. A lot of people see social media as a negative thing, and it can be if you're perceiving it for the certain things that it can be negative about. But if you really go into it and look at it as an opportunity and a possibility to learn more about yourself and your message and your why, and to connect to people in an authentic way, I think it can really, just like what you're doing and the success you're having, like it's just proving that that's such a great way to go about it, that only is a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that removing that stigma, I mean, I think that we have a better hold on ourselves and more self-awareness as a whole, like as a society, like when it comes to social media. I know that there's ways that I limit myself. Like I know, okay, this isn't, my mental health is not worth this. Like I'm comparing myself more. Let me check in with myself and just see, like, I think I'm spending too much time on social media. That's where it can get tricky.
Mm-hmm.
But if you see it like for the opportunity that it is, and it can be whatever you want it to be, and you can be the version of yourself that you want to be. That's why I loved TikTok so much in the beginning, and why I didn't tell anybody I was doing it, because I could be whoever I wanted. No one that followed me knew me. So I could be 100% me. And then by the time people found out about it, I'm like, come on over. I'm confident now.
I'm good. I'm there now.
Like, yeah, come on over. We've got it down. But
okay. Yeah,
I don't know. It's just, I think that people who are afraid, which I've been there, being afraid to be myself, it's because when you show up as this polished alter ego version of yourself, if someone doesn't like you or criticizes you, you're more removed from it because you're like, that's not me anyway. So I don't really care if you like that person. But when you're showing up and allowing things to be exposed as they really are, then when maybe someone doesn't like what you're saying or criticizes you, it hurts because that's really you and there's nowhere else to run. But it's really not as bad as you think it is. If you're putting it off, we know the longer you put things off, the harder it gets to start.
Yeah. And the more I've been authentic with myself, the more I am learning to love myself and these parts of myself that I found that I was criticizing and insecure about and wondering if people thought the same thing. And I started to, like, the more I went out on the way that appeared for me was, this is a journey of loving myself and it truly accepting like the dark, weird parts about myself and realizing that these are the parts about myself that are actually really cool. And so like once that started happening and this light like beamed in front of me, like this is the way now. It's about me and loving and accepting myself and being able to help people through that heartfelt center. What other people, the peanut gallery, the crabs in the bucket started saying, it doesn't matter as much because I wasn't putting weight on anything outside of me. I was only putting weight on helping others and being who I am and accepting that.
Yeah. And the more light that shines on you, the more people are going to be exposed to you. And it's just, it's what's happening. It's just what's going to happen. And I think that's part of the best part of the entrepreneurial journey and the whole content creation journey is that you are forced through this self-growth experience, whether you want to do it or not. And once you lean into it, it gets a lot easier. But I've heard that said before, like that entrepreneurship is the ultimate personal growth experience. And it's so true, because you don't have a choice unless you want to quit.
That's right. And it's such a gift if you can start seeing that, because it really grows and challenges you in a way that nothing else will, or no one else probably ever has or will.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so how important is it for you to show, like, let's just say someone's running, you work with mostly service-based businesses, right?
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
do you ever work with product-based businesses?
I have, yeah. It's just not my main focus.
Yeah, so it's going to be a little different because we have both listening to the Fierce World podcast. But what would you say in terms of showing your face, sharing more about yourself? Like, what is the balance? Is there a balance? Is there an intention or a strategy behind showing up on your stories or TikTok as you and sharing something about yourself or your life, something you're working through, something you've learned, versus sharing about your service or your product?
I think that it depends on the business's goals first. I've worked with like D2C brands where it was a coffee company, and they needed to have their own brand without a face. So it was more like going to be a large business. Like they wanted to be like Coca-Cola and like just big. So I think when it comes to something like that, if you have a goal to be a brand that doesn't have a face, that's one thing. But if you are a person who is a small business, you have service-based or product-based, I think having your face on video is one of the most important things. I just did a training the other day with my community where we talked about, if you start with your business, like if it's an umbrella and you start with a business and you're thinking, okay, here are some things that I could talk about that have to do with my business. My content can talk about services, pain points, like what my ideal client wants to hear about, how I can support them and educate them. But that's as far as you really can go if you're starting with like the business as your main umbrella. But if you start with your brand, like you are the brand, so you are this umbrella, what are the characters and the roles that you play in your brand, in your life? And it's, for me, it's mom, business owner, marketing expert, personal branding obsessed. Like there's so many different places to go when it comes to your content. And you can kind of balance it out a little more when you see like, oh, I've been talking a little bit more about my personal life. Maybe I'll sprinkle in a little bit more like behind the scenes stuff and show them how I'm developing things, and maybe even involve your community by showing them that. Ask them what they want. That's like the number one perk to having social media and building community, is you can create things that they already want. So you're not creating shit that that's just sitting on the shelf. You're asking them for feedback in real time, and they're able to build that connection with you. So by showing up and talking to them, it just creates that parasocial relationship. So when it comes down to it, if you have like a candle business, they're more likely to purchase from the person that they feel like they have this social relationship with than they are to purchase a candle from just like this no-faced business online. It's the differentiator, really.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. I know Simon Sinek says people buy from people they know, like, and trust. And so it's really about showing up. So I want to ask you one more question. And I feel like we should maybe have a part 2 of this, because it's already like, we're already almost like 45 minutes in. But let's see. How important is it to really like show up every single day? And in terms of consistency and where to show up, what would you say is the most important place right now to be consistent? Is it to be omnipresent, to be everywhere? Or is it just, like your stories on Instagram, your Instagram posts, your TikTok, newsletter, text? Like, where is it the most important right now to really focus in?
I think first, when you think about consistency, you have to know that consistency is like, that definition is determined by you and what's sustainable for you. So if it's 2 videos a week that you're posting on social media, that's great. It's really, the consistency part is not for the algorithm or the ever-changing platforms and all of that. The consistency is so that your audience can trust you and know that you show up regularly. Maybe it's not constantly, but it's consistently. So that's the first thing. I think ideally it's important to have one home base where it's like a long form piece of content, whether it's a blog or it's a YouTube channel. A podcast, if you're videoing it like this one, it's great. But if you're just doing a podcast, it's not that, you're not able to use it in as many ways as you are with video. So I would always say to pick one long form piece of content, just so that you can leverage that by repurposing it for other platforms. I think Instagram stories is my number one relationship builder. And I would for sure say, even if you're just showing like what you're doing, a picture with some text on the screen, showing up on stories as much as you can is the way that you're going to start to build that relationship. TikTok is life-changing. Honestly, it's, if you think about Instagram versus TikTok, Instagram is where you're going to nurture and foster that community and connect with them. But TikTok is a cold audience where you're going to get in front of new faces, exposed to new people, and then you can bring them over to Instagram so that you can really get connected with them and warm up that audience. But I think Instagram and TikTok do different things, but wherever your audience is where you should be. So that's the number one thing that you have to figure out. Where's my audience? And as always, I mean, an email list, even if you're not emailing them, always be building your email list.
Perfect. Okay. Where can we find you? Where can everyone follow you?
You can follow me on TikTok at Cool Mom CEO. And Instagram, I'm the Cool Mom CEO. And on YouTube, I'm just starting to, I have shorts on there right now, but I'll have content on there, videos that I'm going to start doing to teach people more about content and marketing, and growing your business on social media. So that is also the Cool Mom CEO.
Awesome. And I ask everyone this at the very end of our interviews. How are you fiercing forward in your life right now?
I am giving myself grace and a lot of space to just be. And I think it was necessary with the summer with kids being home, but I am someone who beats myself up and kind of gets defeated if I'm thinking I need to be producing constantly. So just giving myself that grace and has translated into my life and my business in more positive ways than I could have ever imagined. So stillness and grace.
I love it. It's so important.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here, Stephanie. I really appreciate it. This was really helpful and informative, and hopefully we can have you back to share more marketing.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. I can't wait to come back and talk to you more.